Lourdes Loyola. Thank you for joining the podcast. I'm excited to have you.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
I'm very interested in your life story and the butterfly effects and the things that had to take place in your life in order for you to find Islam, the people and the events that had to occur in order for that to happen. So what was your journey to Islam?
So to Islam, I actually found Islam years after I was in the military. So I had already joined the military. I joined the military in 2009. And then I started looking into Islam in 2015. Now, I have been deployed twice to Afghanistan, so I had already met Muslims at that time that were from Afghanistan. Very nice people. It kind of really changed my perspective on what Islam and Muslims really were. Mind you, at that time I wasn't interested. It's not like I was looking for anything. It was just kind of like, oh, okay, Muslims aren't who the media, the news, Hollywood portrayed Muslims to be. They're just absolutely normal people, trying to make a living just like us, you know. But it wasn't until 2015. I have a brother in the military. He's not in the military anymore, but I have a brother in the military that I knew he was Muslim, right? But all I knew about him was that he didn't eat pork. Like, that's literally the extent of my Islamic knowledge when it came to Islam, right? But during 2015, when the elections started happening, I don't know if you recall, there was a lot of negative talk about Islam and Muslims, and it was just like really bad. People were getting bold, very bold online. And I'm the type of person that likes to stand up for people, like all kinds of people. If you're being oppressed by society or by another group of people, like, I'm here for you. And that's just always been me. So when the elections happened and I started seeing like a lot of people talking bad about Muslims, I was like, nobody's going to talk bad about my brother's religion, right? But another thing about me is that I like to come at people with facts. So I started researching Islam because I wanted to combat the trolls online, but with facts. You know, I didn't want to come in with emotion. I wanted to come in with the facts. So I started looking into the Quran. I started reading, and then eventually, we were in Nebraska at the time, and then eventually I found an open house at a mosque, and I went. And at that point, I was like really interested, but I still had a lot of questions, and I had really stupid questions at that. You know, when I went and they gave their presentation, everybody was really nice. And at the end, they were like, okay, you know, questions, right? Q&A. And so right away, I raised my hand and I'm like, so how come women aren't allowed to have the same inheritance as men? And how come you guys are linked with terrorism? I mean, all kinds of questions. I mean, I was going at them because I don't know. I felt like I needed the answers. And now that I look back at it, I think it was a lot like making sure that, because he knows who I am, making sure that I was pleased with everything that I was hearing. And alhamdulillah, I was very pleased with everything that I heard. And at the end of all my questions, because I feel like I was the only one asking questions, but at the end I asked the person who was giving the presentation, I was like, so why don't you guys eat pork? And he said, well, just because, you know, that's what God said. And I was raised in the Catholic Church, and I went to church because I wanted to go to church. Like, I wasn't your typical Mexican girl who their mom or their grandmother forced them to go to church. I literally went to church with my sister because we wanted to. I mean, we were in the children's choir, the youth group. Once we started growing up, you know, we were very involved. I'm talking Tuesdays, Thursdays, Sundays, like anytime, like that was where we would go to. But when I grew up and I started asking questions, the answer that I would always get was just have faith. Oh, just because. It's just because God said so. So that really kind of started pushing me away from the Catholic Church. So back to the story is when they told me, oh, just because, it kind of like brought me back to the whole like Catholicism, and it's like, okay, well, I guess this is maybe how they are as well. So I left content. You know, once everything was done, I said to myself, okay, well, you know what? I think I have enough ammo to combat the trolls, right? But I feel like I knew that that's where I wanted to be, but that question really pushed me back. And I was like, okay, that's fine. I love the Muslim people. You know, this was great. It was very informative. I'm out. You know, I came and I got what I was looking for. But before I left, one of the sisters, she reached out to me. She's like, hey, are you the sister that asked about why we don't eat pork? And I said, yes, it was me. And so she explained it in detail to me as to why we don't eat pork. And I took that as a sign, as silly as that may be, because I think that, like I said, God really knew what my struggles were in the Catholic Church. So that when that sister came up to me before I left and gave me the answer, I was like, okay, everything makes sense. Like literally everything that I know as of now. And I'm just still sitting there talking, to everybody. And a brother comes close and he's like, so what are you waiting for? Like, what is holding you back from being Muslim? And I looked at him and I'm like, nothing. And he's like, so do you want to take your shahada right now? And I was like, yeah, I do. And so I literally took my shahada that same day.